Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's been 7 days since this Hoaxathon, the term we have given to what's happening in the Indian skies, and confirmed estimates say at least 90 flights have been delayed in the last 7 days. Delayed, disrupted, or diverted. By the time we get updated figures for tonight, the count is expected to cross 100. Yet, for a phenomenon that has seen a steady escalation in the number of flights that have been affected, the aviation minister's response has been curiously consistent. He still insists that the response to this crisis that is happening now is newer and stronger laws that will happen sometime in the future. Listen in.
Aircraft security rules is something which deals with the security aspect when it comes to within the aircraft, how do we deal with the security issues, concerns, and there is a strict rules that have been laid out. And we have seen that if you can do a little amendment there, it can specifically strengthen the cause which we are fighting for right now. So one of the idea that we want to propagate by changing these rules is, once we catch hold of the perpetrator who is behind this, we want to put them in the no-fly list. And with that idea or with that thought process, we are trying to amend the aircraft security rules, which is already there. We feel that there is some betterment that we can do, and with our discussions, we are trying to amend it.
You said that you're going to make some amendments. Will there be some financial penalty or any jail term for the?
No, that is what we are making it a cognizable offence. So, based on that amendment, there is going to be a punishment and also fine also.
So effectively, the aviation minister has two ideas to counter his menace. The first is to update the aircraft security rules and put the perpetrators of this hoax scam nonsense on a no-fly list. His second option is to enhance the suppression of unlawful acts against the Civil Aviation Act by making these threats a cognizable offense. Now note, both of these are provisions to legislations which will happen in the future. Neither will be retrospective, because in India, laws cannot be applied retrospectively, which means these new updated, stronger laws, if and when they come, will work for future cases, not for whoever is creating this mayhem in the present. So then let's talk about the present. Investigators have traced the IP addresses of the threat messages back to European nations, making it clear that this is not a simple prank by a minor, which is what the aviation minister once said last week. The use of VPN chaining has further complicated matters, making it difficult to track down the sender. So it's evident that this individual is quite technically sound and is likely to be coordinating with people who understand how to stay under the radar. It's not a minor matter, and it's not something likely that a normal prankster can pull off. After 7 days and 90 bomb scares, there are some pressing questions that therefore remain unanswered. What can the minor really say, my minister really say about minors and pranksters being able to cause such mayhem on a massive scale? It's impossible. And if there really are minors who have been doing so, why haven't there been any further arrests since that one person who's been arrested from Chhattisgarh last week? These are sophisticated masking of IP addresses which is going on, and that indicates that there's an expert hand in play. Does that not raise red flags, which we're not acknowledging? And then you're talking of laws to develop. That takes time. What is the immediate solution? Why can't we stop them right now? Why haven't existing stricter laws which are already in place applied to these cases? If you say that we will put them on a no-fly list, is it strong enough to deter? Most of these people might not even be within India, might not even have plans to take flight anytime soon. Then why haven't you brought in the Ministry of Home Affairs? Why haven't you brought in central agencies, the NIA, to assist instead of making it predominantly an investigation by the Aviation Ministry and State Police? These questions linger as we seek clarity on what has been an incredibly chaotic situation. Let me bring in Sharda Prasad, former officiating commissioner at the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. I'm also being joined by Captain Sanjay Karvi, aviation expert, Pawan Duggal, cybersecurity expert, and I'm also being joined by Akshobhya Vijay Simha, who was a passenger on board. In fact, Akshobhya, I'll come with you. Tell me about your experience, because we have not heard from the passengers who have been impacted here in this entire situation that's been going on. If I'm not mistaken, you took a flight from Mumbai to JFK Airport in New York, which got diverted through Delhi. If I've gotten the wrong flight, please, my apologies. Please tell us about what your experience was when you took that flight which got disrupted due to this hoax call menace.
Yeah, firstly, thanks a lot for having me over. So I did take the Mumbai JFK flight, Air India. And I had started from Bangalore, but Bangalore to Mumbai, and then Mumbai to JFK. And then the flight was rerouted from when it was on the way to JFK. We were about an hour and a half in the flight. And the reason given was there was a security threat. So initially we didn't know whether if it was somewhere on the areas we were flying over or on the aircraft as such. But only when we landed in Delhi, we realized that it was a security threat on the aircraft. And we were escorted outside the aircraft first. We were urged to leave our baggage behind. I must say there was a slight sense of fear, but there was no panic. We all exited the aircraft in a single line, and it was great deal of maturity shown by both the airline staff and also all the passengers on the plane. And we were housed in a temporary room for about 6 hours, I would say, so that the security
In Delhi,
personnel
right?
could screen our baggage and us before they uh, gave us a rescheduled flight. And well,
So Akshay,
eventually
just
we
very
flew
quick, you
24
were
hours later.
housed overnight in Delhi, right? While the flight was being sanitized.
That is
Am I
correct.
correct?
That is correct. That is correct. So we spent early
And
morning through afternoon
how many
at the
hours?
airport.
I mean, was this entire? I mean, in terms of your time, in terms of your estimated your official time of arrival versus when you actually landed at your destination, what was the difference of hours?
Oh, that is 24 hours to be precise.
Wonderful. So now, ladies and gentlemen, some context here for this flight, which was diverted from Mumbai to JFK, which is diverted via Delhi. That cost Air India 36 lakh rupees. It took 12 lakhs for them to house passengers such as Akshobhya
Oh,
overnight, as is obviously the norm and as is they're required to do. It cost them 12
mhm.
lakhs, and it cost Air India another 24 lakhs in terms of the extra fuel to go via Delhi. So 36 lakhs in just this one flight itself. So you can imagine the amount of money that's being lost. And also, Akshay, if I'm not mistaken, this was a week ago. This was the beginning of this entire saga. It's now become a downright nuisance. Sharda
Right.
Prasad, let me bring you in at this point. The aviation minister's response from day one has been we need newer laws. Newer laws,
Yes.
when are not going to be interrupted. The newer laws means putting people on a no-fly list. I'm not sure whether that's a strong enough deterrent. New laws when they come in will not be retrospective. Deal with future such transgressions here. What is the plan to deal with it right now?
Uh, the plan, what I know, is what the Honorable Minister has told, that they have plans to modify or amend the existing aviation security rules. So this is what plan he has. And second is what he said, that they will put such a people, such a person on no-fly list. So this is the plan what you have already spoken. Now point is whether such a plan is good enough or deterrent enough. That's a point to be discussed. My personal opinion, having worked in that organization for 5 years in one spell, for about 4 or 5 months in one second spell as advisor. So my point is that it's just not enough. It is as good as childish. I mean, it's strange that such a what you call solution has been proposed, because if you are really serious, then the existing version of the old Indian Penal Code itself is good enough to put a person behind. And obviously, if a person is not in the line of traveling for next some time, how does it matter you put him on the no-fly list? That's a childish. It should not have been
Exactly.
done that way, because that is already there in civil aviation regulations, which is DGCA's domain. The airlines can have the discretion of putting a person on no-fly zone, no-fly list. So that is what is going to be transferred to the civil aviation authorities.
So you don't need a law to make
And
that.
I
That
say it's
provision
not
already
enough.
exists,
And if they
right,
are very serious
sir?
about the matter, they should be able to.
Okay. Shada Prasad, I love the way
Presently,
semantics is
the
worked
situation
out
is
because
that
you have called this
DGCA
entire
has
process,
a
you have
yes.
called a response childish, while the aviation ministry is saying that there are minors and pranksters behind it. So who's actually the bacha involved? The people who are coming up with these pranks, according to the ministry, or the government's response to it? Let me bring in Pawan Dugalji at this point. Mr. Dugal, we have been discussing this extensively. Now, the data which we have received in terms of how these pranksters are pulling this off, this is definitely not a minor matter. IP addresses initially directing us to European nations, then there is a VPN chain which has been brought in to ensure that further tracing is impossible. These are not the handiwork of minors, regular pranksters who keep calling and say bomb and then hang the phone. This indicates a level of sophistication which I don't think the government seems to be acknowledging.
Well, you have to quickly realize that these set of events are distinctly different from earlier calls that we have received so far. When you have this quantum of hoax calls, clearly the focus is trying to target the sovereignty, security, and integrity of India, trying to tarnish the image of India in the eyes of the global community. And that's why we need to look at it much bigger angle and in a much bigger picture. I think these need to be wake-up calls. Some of the agencies are doing some remarkable work. For example, the BCAS, or the Bureau of Civil Aviation Safety, has been doing some remarkable work. They've come up with various ABSEC orders. But now in the context of these hoax calls, and seen from another perspective, these hoax calls need to be treated as cyber terrorism because these calls are coming on electronic networks. The focus of these calls is to go ahead and instill fear and panic in the minds of the community, the passengers, and the travelers. That being so, it's a classical case that falls under Section 66F of the Information Technology Act 2000, punishable with life imprisonment and fine. Needless to say, we can always invoke other criminal provisions under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. But having said that, this has to be a wake-up call. Why? Because all airlines have to come in together. All the civil aviation ecosystem stakeholders have to come in together and come up with standard operating procedures as to how they now deal with this entire menace. The government should come up with the distinctive guidelines and rules in this particular regard. The power is definitely existing with the government, both under the Aircraft Act, under the rules, and clearly those power needs to be well exercised. But ultimately, you will have to look in the direction where you will have to inculcate
Mr.
a
Pawan
culture
Dugal,
of aviation cybersecurity amongst all stakeholders. Without inculcation of that cyber security
exactly. So,
culture
Mr.
in
Naidu
civil
is
aviation,
right in his assessment that it requires a rethink, it requires a strange framework. But is that framework really something which is aligned with the necessity that needs is the question here. A slight context here before I bring in Sanjay Karve as well, because the government insists that this is the work of pranksters and minors here. 70% of the threat messages came from a Twitter handle called @AdamLanza1111. This particular Twitter handle made 12 threats on a Friday night and 34 on a Saturday, 46 in total. It was made to both Indian and international headlines, and all the threat messages had an identical message. And this was then inactive on Saturday. Now, Adam Lanza is one of those infamous shooters in the United States in 2012 who shot down at least 20 children in a school. An individual who is clearly aware of past incidents in a previous country and has taken the cover of people such as those indicates that this is a far more sophisticated individual, someone who understands global affairs, someone who understands the larger game, is not an innocuous misled prankster, which is why Captain Sanjay Karve, we have spoken to both Mr. Prasad and both Mr. Dugal, who say that existing rules exist both in civil aviation rules and in cybersecurity rules, which can be applied to this case right now before you think of coming up with a more suited framework. Why has that not been done, Captain Karve?
I fully agree with the previous two speakers that we have adequate provisions in law, whether it is the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita or the IT Act, to take actions against these pranksters. The government's viewpoint at this juncture, saying that it's a prank, is something which cannot be taken lightly. Means I am amused as to how a government takes a threat of 100-odd hoax calls coming from different parts of the world as a work of a prankster. It could be something which could be leading to something much more sinister. If you recollect, today morning, Mr. Pannu has made a remark from USA saying that do not take an Air India flight starting from 1st of November to 19th of November. Is it possible that there could be some connection? Is it possible that someone is trying to destabilize the Indian aviation market, putting a fear in everyone's mind that it is unsafe to travel by the Indian carriers? In fact, we had a case where the Vistara flight, which was going to Frankfurt from Delhi, was not allowed to land in Afghanistan, even after receiving a threat. So probably this is an angle which the government seriously needs to look at. The government cannot just wash its hands off saying that we are looking at stricter measures. No-fly rule, in my opinion, is a ridiculous punishment in a country like India. All of us are aware getting a passport or a PAN card in India does not require any special effort. You put a gentleman on no-fly rule
and someone who is
rule, and he alters his identity with a new passport and a new identity card. Digi Yatra
and
is
someone
not
who can come up with multiple Twitter handles which make them almost impossible to be detected by the best of India's investigating agencies indicates that that person is well equipped to come up with different aliases at this point. The bottom line is, as most of our gentlemen have been saying for many days here, either it really is a case of minors, pranksters who have been completely bringing the system to its knees on the last 7 days, and that's a matter of shame, chullubar pani, if I may use that phrase for the aviation ministry, or it is something deeper, something insidious, which case, again, the question is, are we not taking it too lightly? The bottom line, as Captain Kavya pointed out, people such as Akshobhya, who have been traumatized, or if not traumatized, at least hassled and harassed to the point of dealing for 24 hours, will think twice before taking a flight today. If I have to board a flight, I'll think that is it safe to take a flight, or I'll think that is it worth taking a flight if my flight's going to be delayed by many hours, if not 24 hours. And at the end of the day, it's the aviation industry which is going to pay again. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. Akshobhya, Pawan Dugalji, Captain Karve, and Sharda Prasad for joining us on this very short but quite illuminating debate here. We'll continue to focus, because this, I feel, is the biggest issue concerning the country today. And we'll continue to bring our more reviews, more coverage